Once, in the dark stone walls of King's Landing, Ned Stark stood, broken and chained. His knees touched the ground, his eyes looked low. They wanted him to confess to lies, to say Joffrey was the true king, that he had betrayed the realm. All eyes were on him. The crowd waited. His daughter Sansa cried for his life. Varys whispered to him last night, "Choose your daughters, not your pride." But Ned Stark had lived by one rule: honor. That rule brought him here, in chains, ready to die. Then came the moment. The High Septon asked him, "Do you confess?" Ned looked up, but something was different this time. His eyes were not full of fear. No, this time they held something else. Fire. He stood slowly. "Yes," he said, "but not the way I expected. I confess that the game is never fair, and I will no longer play it like a fool." Gasps flew through the crowd. Sansa looked up, confused. Even Joffrey leaned forward on his throne. "I did what I had to," Ned continued, "but now I will do what I must." And then he dropped to one knee again. A silence filled the square. Joffrey laughed. "He's begging," he said, but Ned wasn't begging. He turned to the boy king and said in a calm voice, "Let us speak. Your Grace, alone." The queen wanted to refuse, but Joffrey, ever hungry for control, smiled wide. "Very well, I'll hear him." They led Ned to the Red Keep. Varys followed close behind. In a dark chamber, the doors shut behind them. "What game are you playing, old man?" Joffrey hissed. Ned looked him straight in the eye. "The kind that keeps both of us alive." He told Joffrey the truth, not about his birth, but about what power really meant. He said, "Your mother wants to rule through you. Your grandfather wants to use you. But I can help you rule as your own man." "Why would I trust you?" Joffrey asked. "Because I don't want the throne," Ned said. "I want to protect my family, and if I serve you, I'll do it with the same loyalty I gave Robert." Joffrey smiled like a boy given a new toy. "Then live, Lord Stark, but betray me, and I'll cut your head myself." Ned bowed. "Then may your hand be swift if I ever do." Back outside, the crowd saw something they never expected. Ned Stark, alive. Joffrey declared, "He has confessed and repented. In my mercy, I give him his life and his title once again." The people cheered, but in the shadows Littlefinger frowned. Varys gave a slow nod, and far up on a balcony Sansa whispered, "Father chose life." But Arya, hidden in the crowd, shook her head. "No, Father chose war." The whole city buzzed with one thing. Ned Stark lives. In the alleys, in the wine shops, in the brothels, even in the kitchens of the Red Keep, people whispered, "He bent the knee. He gave up honor to live." Some praised him. Others called him a coward. But no one could ignore him now. That night, in the Chambers of the Hand, Ned Stark sat once more in the same chair he had once hated. The council was quiet. Lord Varys entered slowly and said, "You have become interesting, Lord Stark." Ned didn't reply. Then came Littlefinger. His smile was wide, but his eyes held no warmth. "You've learned how to play," he said softly. "But you're years late, my friend." "I play now," Ned said, "because I have no other choice." Joffrey, drunk on the cheers from the crowd earlier, gave Ned full authority as hand. Again, he wanted someone strong to rule while he played king. Cersei warned her son, but Joffrey waved her off. "He belongs to me now," the boy said, "like a dog who knows his place." Back in the council chamber, Ned gave his first order. All letters and messages would now pass through his hands. No more secrets. He ordered more guards, not the gold cloaks, but his own northern men, sent for in secret. Sansa came to see him. She ran into his arms and cried, "I thought they would kill you." Ned kissed her forehead. "I won't leave you again." But then she asked the question that froze him. "Did you lie, father?" Ned looked into her young eyes. "I did what I had to. One day you'll understand." Sansa stared at him, confused. "You always said lies were poison." "Sometimes," he whispered, "poison is all that's left to fight poison." Later that night, Varys visited him alone. "What you did today was clever, but clever men die just as fast as honest ones." "I know," Ned said. "That's why I'm becoming something worse." Varys leaned forward. "And what is that?" Ned's voice was low. "A survivor." Elsewhere, Arya watched from a high wall. Her face was hard, her fists clenched. She had waited for him to fight, to spit in their faces like a wolf. But instead, he bowed. She turned her back on the castle. "He's not father anymore," she said. In the Eyrie, Catelyn Stark received the Raven. She read it twice. "Ned, lives," she whispered, almost not believing it. But something in the letter made her shiver. His words were cold, formal, strategic, not her Ned. She showed the letter to Robb. He read it, and then handed it back without a word. He didn't cry. He didn't smile. He just stared out the window and said, "He made his choice." Hook, but in a quiet chamber in the Red Keep, Littlefinger sharpens his blade and whispers, "You may have lived, Ned, but you've already begun to die." It began with a whisper, then a rumor, then the whole court was on fire with it. Lord Stark accused the Queen of treason, not in silence, not in secret, but loudly and publicly, in front of the small council and 24 witnesses. Cersei's face was frozen. She did not scream, she did not cry. She only stared as Ned laid out every piece of truth. Her children were not Robert's, but Jaime's. The line of kings was broken. "I stayed silent once," Ned said, "and too many paid the price. I'll not do so again." Jaime Lannister stood up with murder in his eyes, his sword halfway out. But Ned didn't flinch. He raised his hand, and 10 Northern guards stepped forward, swords already drawn. They were not gold cloaks. They were men who followed him from Winterfell, and they were ready to die for him. Jaime stopped, the council room filled with the smell of fear. "I have written proof," Ned said. "Letters, a confession from Grand Maester Pycelle. Even Varys has read it." Varys did not speak. He only blinked twice, slow and careful. Silence is a weapon, and he knew how to use it. Cersei stood and said only one word: war. Later that evening, Joffrey sat on his throne, red-faced and shaking. "Is it true, what he said?" Cersei slapped him across the face. "You are king. That is all that matters. Never ask again." But Joffrey wasn't the same boy anymore. He was young, yes, but power was a drug, and he had tasted it. He stared at his mother and said, "I spared him. And now he calls you a traitor." "Then take his head," she shouted, but Joffrey smirked. "No, he's more useful than you think." Outside the court, Arya heard everything. She had snuck in through servant tunnels. When she heard her father's words, her heart jumped. "There's the man I know," she thought. But still, something felt wrong. She didn't trust this place, didn't trust this city, and for the first time, she didn't fully trust her father. Later, Ned met with Petyr Baelish in the gardens. "You made your move," Littlefinger said. "I told the truth. You played your truth like a blade. Now watch who bleeds first." "I only care who survives," Ned replied. Petyr's smile twisted. "You're learning too fast. That makes you dangerous." Ned didn't answer. He just handed Petyr a scroll. "I'm building my own council. I want you on it." Littlefinger took the scroll. And if I say no, you won't." That night, as ravens flew and houses chose sides, Arya wrote a name on the back of her hand with dirt. She didn't know spells, but she believed in one thing: names matter. And the name she wrote was Ned Stark, because the man in that castle wasn't him anymore. Hook, far across the sea, in a hot and dusty land, a young dragon queen hears a name whispered by spies. Ned Stark now plays the game. In Winterfell, the snow was falling, slow and soft. But inside the great hall, Robb Stark burned with fire. He had read his father's second letter. It spoke of alliances, of southern lords, of new deals and distant gold. It spoke of war plans, but not with the North. Robb crumpled the letter and tossed it in the fire. "He's thinking like Tywin now," Robb said. "Cold, calculating. No heart." Maester Luwin placed a hand on his shoulder. "He lives. That's something." Robb didn't answer. His silence said enough. In King's Landing, Catelyn arrived at the Red Keep, tired and angry. The last time, she saw her husband. He was being dragged away in chains. She ran through the halls, past the courtiers and the whispers. When she reached the Hand's Tower, she burst in without knocking. Ned stood at a large table, filled with scrolls, sigils, and war maps. He didn't look up at first. "Catelyn," he said, like it was just another day. "You're alive," she breathed, half in relief, half in confusion. "But what are you?" "I am trying to stop this kingdom from falling apart." She looked around. "By joining hands with vipers?" Ned turned to her, tired in the eyes. "If I don't, someone worse will." That night they argued for hours. She reminded him of the man who once taught Bran to ride, who told Jon he had honor even, without a name. But Ned kept speaking of numbers, soldiers, debt, and alliances. "You sound like a Lannister," she said at last. Ned didn't deny it. In secret, Ned had sent a raven to Highgarden. He knew the Tyrells were powerful. He promised marriage alliances, through Sansa, without asking Catelyn or even Robb. When Varys found out, he said softly, "You are buying peace with the lives of children." And Ned answered, "Better to sell a few hearts than bury thousands." Far away on the wall, Jon Snow received a cold, folded letter. He opened it. Ned's words were sharp, dry, and empty. Not a single mention of love, only orders. "Watch the North. Stay silent. Winter is no longer your only enemy." Jon stared at the paper, then tossed it into the fire. "You're not my father," he whispered. "Not anymore." In the quiet dark of the keep, Catelyn walked alone, tears in her eyes. She passed Sansa's chamber and heard her singing to herself, a soft northern lullaby. Sansa was trying to believe things were normal. Catelyn walked further and found herself in a room with one candle burning. On the table was a list of lords. Beside it, a ring with a wolf's head. She picked up the ring and closed her hand around it. "If you wear this," she whispered, "wear it as a Stark, not a shadow of the throne." Hook. The next morning, Catelyn leaves without a word to meet with Renly Baratheon and strike a deal her husband must never know. Word reached the north like a hammer in winter. Ned Stark had ordered the hanging of a northern bannerman. The man's name was Lord Mollin, a loyal voice once at Winterfell's great hall. He had spoken against the Lannisters. He had called Ned a puppet. Now he was dead, hanged for treason by the very man he once followed. The North did not forget. Ruby stood before his bannerman, letter in hand. His voice shook. "He didn't send this to me. He sent it to them." He held up the royal seal, Lannister gold. "He's choosing the South," Great Jon Umber roared. "Over us." Whispers rose. Some called for patience, some for rebellion. But none called Ned honorable anymore. Back in King's Landing, Sansa watched as her father walked the courtyard in silence. She ran to him, held his hand. "Why?" she asked. "That man served us." "He served division," Ned said flatly, "and division is death. But he was from the north, and I serve the realm now." Sansa's lips trembled. "Do you serve us at all any more?" Ned didn't answer. He pulled away gently and walked on. Catelyn, still missing, had not written back. Arya was gone. Jon silent, Robb bitter, and Winterfell drifting far away. Still, Ned pushed forward. He sat in council that night with Peter Baelish and Varys. The North murmurs. Varys warned. "A war without swords has begun already." Littlefinger smiled. "Then let the North come. Winterfell can't win against the Crown." Ned looked at them both. "I need more than whispers. I need fear." Littlefinger raised a brow. "Fear? Of what?" "Fear of losing something they thought was theirs." That night, new laws were written. Gold was shifted. Certain northern lands were seized and given to southern lords in loyalty to the crown. It was a message to Robb: stay silent or lose everything. Meanwhile, Arya, hiding in the Riverlands, heard the news. She sat with a band of rebels, mostly farmers and runaways, listening to stories by firelight. He hanged Lord Mullen. One old man spat. "The Starks are gone now. All of them. There's only wolves wearing golden collars." Arya gripped her dagger tight. "He's not dead," she whispered, "but he's not my father anymore." The man laughed. "You speak like a Stark." "I am a Stark," she said, "and I'll prove it." Later that night, a message reached Arya's small camp. It was from Jon, carried by a crow from the wall. In simple words, he wrote, "The North has no king, but it has wolves. Be ready." Arya burned the note into memory. Back in the Red Keep, Peter stood beside Ned on a balcony. "You've caged the North," he said, "but cages break, and wolves bite." Ned stared at the moon. "Then I'll wear armor to bed." Littlefinger leaned in close. "You're losing your family, one piece at a time. But I'll help you hold the throne, if you pay the price." Hook. In the shadows, a spy reports to Ned. "Robb Stark rides south, and not to see you." On the wall, the snow never stopped, but Jon Snow burned with fire. He had received another letter from King's Landing, his father's seal, words sharp and cold. "Jon," it said, "do not rise, do not speak. Let the wolves tear each other. You are not one of them. No warmth, no love, just orders." Jon read it once, then fed it to the fire. Sam stood by, nervous. "He's still your father." Jon looked at him. "Is he?" "My father would never silence me. My father would never choose the throne over truth." In the nights that followed, Jon stopped writing back. He trained harder, spoke less, and listened more. When wilding rumors reached the wall that a rebellion was forming in the north, Jon took interest. Not for the rebellion, but for one name tied to it: Arya. She was out there, alive, fighting, and Jon made a choice. With Ghost by his side, he left the wall without a word, taking only Sam and 2 sworn brothers who still believed in him. In the Riverlands, Arya wore dirt on her face and knives on her belt. She had become something else, a leader of lost boys and bitter men. They called themselves the Frozen Flame. No sigils, no songs, just vengeance. When Jon found her, she didn't smile. She didn't hug him. She only asked, "Do you remember Father's words?" He nodded. "The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives." Arya's eyes were cold. "Then let's find our pack." Together, they gathered outlaws, broken knights, old friends of the North. Jon didn't wear black anymore. Arya never used her real name. They were not Starks. They were what the Starks left behind. Back in King's Landing, Ned heard the reports. Varys came to him with a list. Your bastard son. Your daughter. They march with blades, not letters. Ned closed his eyes. He wanted to believe they were still children. Still innocent. But his choices had forced them into the dirt. They seek to burn the crown, Varys said. Then I must stop them, Ned replied, or reason with them. They won't listen. Not anymore. He stood before the court the next day and announced, Jon Snow is a threat to the realm. He leads traitors and rebels. If caught, he is to be executed. Sansa heard it from behind a curtain. Her heart cracked. He's your blood, she whispered later that night. He's my mistake, Ned replied. One I won't make again. Sansa ran from his chamber, her face full of tears. She remembered the man who once read her stories. Now he gave out death orders like wine at feasts. In the north, Robb received news that Arya and Jon had joined forces. The north stirred. The bannermen grew bold, and in the dark one of them said, He fights his own blood now. Ned Stark has become his own enemy. Hook, Catelyn, in a faraway tent, hears that Jon and Arya ride together and writes one last letter to Daenerys Targaryen. The winds in King's Landing changed, though no one saw them coming. Ned Stark stood taller than ever in the court, yet every step echoed loneliness. Power was his now, fully, finally. But his family? Slipping like sand through his fingers. Catelyn was gone. Arya rebelled. Jon hunted. Robb declared war in all but name. Even Sansa began to change. That morning she entered his chamber. Her face was pale, her eyes full of questions. I heard your order, she said softly, about Jon. Ned turned. He made his choice. He is your son. He is a danger, Sansa's voice cracked. And I'm your daughter. Will I become a danger too? Ned's silence said more than words ever could. That night, Catelyn's old bed in the tower lay untouched. Ned sat beside it, reading an old letter from her. The ink was faded, but the words were full of love. You were my honor when the world had none, she once wrote. Now, he felt like a ghost reading a memory. He folded the letter slowly and placed it beside his sword. Elsewhere, in a quiet corner of the Red Keep, Varys whispered warnings. Littlefinger grows close to Cersei again. Whispers of betrayal are seeds, and some seeds bloom fast. Ned nodded. Then I'll act before the roots take hold. But in truth, his hands were already stained. That evening, he summoned Lord Glover from the north, had him arrested publicly for plotting with traitors. He didn't ask for proof. He didn't wait for confession. Sansa watched from above, her eyes wide. This is not justice, she told him later. This is survival. No, she said, this is fear. Meanwhile, news spread of a new rebellion, a symbol rising in the Riverlands. Not a direwolf, not a stag, but a sword wrapped in fire and frost. The frozen flame. Arya. And Jon's banner. One night, Ned sat in the empty great hall thinking. He had gold, he had titles, he had the ear of the king. But he also had silence. He no longer trusted anyone, not Varys, not Littlefinger, not even himself. Suddenly, he felt a presence behind him. A blade touched his neck. It was quick, silent, clean, but not death. Sansa stepped from the shadows, eyes wide in horror. The faceless man paused, waiting for Ned's final breath. But Sansa threw herself between them. No, the assassin hissed. He ordered the death of Jon Snow, Sansa whispered, and I still believe there's some part of him left. That part raised me. The blade lowered. The man vanished like smoke. Ned sat in silence, staring at his daughter. "Why?" "Because if you die now," she said, "the wrong story will be told." And she left him there, shaken. Hook. In the east, Daenerys holds a Catelyn's letter in her hand. Her dragons circle the sky, and her face is cold as she says, "Ned, Stark wants peace, but I bring fire." Night fell heavy on King's Landing. The walls whispered secrets. The stones remembered blood. Inside the Red Keep, Ned Stark slept little. Power was a cold blanket. Every corner now looked like a trap. Every ally, a liar. But danger didn't knock this time. It crept in. A shadow moved through the hallways, silent as breath. A faceless man, paid in northern silver, moved like a ghost. His blade kissed the candlelight as he entered Ned's chamber. 1 step closer. 2, a third. But then, crack. A vase fell. Sansa stood in the doorway, trembling. "No!" she shouted, too loud, too raw. The assassin turned. Ned's instincts kicked in. He rolled from bed, grabbing a short dagger, eyes wide with fury. The faceless man darted forward. Steel clashed. Once, twice, then silence. Blood painted the floor. Sansa stood frozen as Ned knelt beside the dying man, mask half off. No face, no name, only death. He turned to his daughter, chest heaving. "Why? Were you here?" "I wanted to talk," she whispered, shaking. "I was afraid you might not wake." He sat on the floor, next to the corpse. "You saved me." "No," she said. "I saved whatever's left of the man I once loved." Later that night they spoke in quiet voices. Sansa told him of the whispers, the rebellion, the fear in the north. She told him Arya was alive, that Jon was rising, that Mother had written to a dragon queen. Ned closed his eyes. "They are all flames now, and I am soaked in oil." Then, the moment that changed everything, Ned told her the truth. "Jon is not my bastard. He is Lyanna's son, Aegon Targaryen. The true heir," Sansa gasped. "You lied?" "I protected him," he said, "because the truth would kill him." Her hands trembled. "And now your lies will kill us all." That same night, Littlefinger met with Queen Cersei. He bowed low, his eyes full of poisoned charm. "Lord Stark is cracking," he said, "and cracks lead to collapse." Cersei smiled, then pushed him over the edge. By morning, guards arrived at Ned's tower. They dragged him before the court, accused of withholding royal secrets, of protecting traitors. The crowd gasped. Jaime Lannister stood smug, sword drawn. "This time," he said, "no mercy." Sansa watched from the balcony, heart pounding, but Varys moved fast. His spies worked in the shadows. In the confusion, he found Ned and whispered, "If you want to live, disappear." Ned refused. "My place is here." But then Sansa came forward, tears in her eyes. "Please, Father, leave. There's nothing left for you to fix." In that moment, Ned saw it all, his fall, his pride, his loss, and he nodded. As the chaos grew, Varys's men opened a secret tunnel. Ned was gone before the swords could find his throat, but he didn't go north, he went east. To Dragonstone. Hook. At Dragonstone, Daenerys watches the sea, and a ship sails toward her bearing one man's name, Eddard Stark. The sea crashed wild. Around Dragonstone. Smoke lifted from the rocks like the breath of waiting dragons. Daenerys Targaryen stood at the edge of the cliff, wind in her silver hair, eyes on the ship approaching fast. A raven had flown ahead. "Eddard Stark is coming." Her face didn't show fear, just curiosity and caution. When the ship docked, the men stepped off one by one. and then him, older, harder, thinner than the stories. Eddard Stark, the man who once tried to destroy her family, now standing before her with empty hands. "I didn't come to kneel," he said. "I didn't ask you to," she replied. Inside the great hall, fire burned behind them as they sat across the table. No army, no throne, just truth. "I protected your nephew," Ned said. "Jon Snow. He is Aegon." Daenerys said nothing. "I kept the lie," he continued, "to protect him from you and others." "Do you regret it?" she asked. Ned didn't blink. Every day, a long silence filled the chamber. Then she said, "Why are you here, Lord Stark?" "Because the realm is about to burn, and I helped light the fire." He explained the rising of Jon and Arya, the North's rebellion, Robb's fury, Catelyn's secret letters, and he told her something else. He no longer wanted the throne, nor to play the game. "I want to stop the blood before there's nothing left to rule." Daenerys leaned back, eyes sharp. "And you think I can help?" "I think you will try, because unlike me, you still believe in breaking the wheel." Far away, at the gates of King's Landing, Robb Stark's army finally arrived. Thousands, strong, hardened by loss. They wore no smiles, no bright banners, only cold steel and hard eyes. The people watched from windows, whispering, "The North has come, but not for peace." Inside the Red Keep, Cersei drank her wine and smiled. "Let the wolves come. I've burned worse." But the city trembled. That night, Arya slipped through the cracks, entering the city in silence. With her came fire, rage, and purpose. She wasn't a girl anymore. She was every scream the South had ever ignored. Jon Snow rode not beside her, but ahead of her. His banner was no longer black. It was white with red flame. He did not seek permission. He sought justice. Back at Dragonstone, Daenerys stood by, her dragons. Ned Stark stood beside her, wrapped in cloak and shame. "You'll be called traitor," she told him. "I already am. They'll say you bowed to fire. I already burned." The next morning, 3 ships sailed together. Stark, Targaryen, and a third, silent and dark, carrying shadows. Hook. In King's Landing, as the bells of war begin to ring, Sansa sits alone and places her crown on the table. "Let them fight," she says. "I will choose who rules when they're all ashes." Years passed, not in silence, but in echoes of fire, of wolves, of thrones broken and names forgotten. The war came and went like a terrible storm, and when it was over, there was no king, no queen, no clear victor, only ashes. Daenerys burned Cersei's Red Keep to the ground. Arya put her dagger through Littlefinger's throat in the same hall where he once whispered lies. Jon Snow, Aegon Targaryen, did not take the throne. He vanished after Daenerys fell, her body carried by dragon wings into sky and legend. And Ned Stark, he disappeared into myth. Some said he died in Dragonstone's fire. Some claimed he walked the Shadowlands beyond Ashai. Others believed he returned to the north, a ghost in the woods, hiding his face from the world he tried to save. But no one knew for sure. Back in Winterfell, Sansa ruled. The North was free. She spoke little of the war, even less of her family. Her crown was simple, her words fewer. But her eyes, those carried stories she never told. Every year, a single raven came to her window. No name, no seal, just words. "Forgive me, I couldn't save them, but I tried." She never told anyone. About the letters, she never replied. But she never threw them away, either. Arya sailed west, beyond all known maps, chasing a world without thrones or names. She never looked back. Robb, broken by the war and haunted by the blood he spilled, gave up his claim. He chose exile, wandering. The free cities wearing no sigil, and Jon, he returned to the wall, or somewhere beyond, ghost by his side. Some say he became the first true king beyond the wall, a king with no crown. But this story does not end with them. In Old Town, deep in the Citadel's library, a boy with ink-stained hands and eyes full of questions found a dusty book. No title, on the spine. No author. He opened it, and inside were pages of confession, stories written not in glory but regret. The first line said, "Ned Stark never died. He simply stopped being the man he once was." The boy read on. Tales of betrayal, of cold choices, of a man who chose power to save his blood and ended up burning everything he loved. The last page held no signature. Just a single sentence. "If you remember me, do not call me Lord. Do not call me hero. Call me the warning." The boy closed the book slowly. He looked out the window, where snow began to fall again, soft and slow. And somewhere, far away, a lone wolf walked through the frost-covered woods. No crown, no sword, just the silence of what was lost and the burden of what still lived inside.